Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this event about the Royal College of Psychiatrists Psych Stars scheme. My name's Declan Hyland. I'm a general adult consultant psychiatrist, and I'm heavily involved with the Psych Stars scheme. And I'm here this evening with a couple of our current Psych Stars to tell you a little bit about the scheme over the next hour and a half, and obviously to invite any questions that you may have as well. And hopefully, by the end of this session, you will be you'll be more encouraged to want to apply for the scheme, and wish you every luck with doing so. So I've just got a short presentation just to tell you a little bit about the scheme. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so the Psych Star scheme. So just to kind of give you a little bit of background information about the Psych Star scheme. The scheme was established in 2019, so it's been running for 3 years now. And the scheme essentially replaced the Pathfinder Fellowship scheme, which you may or may not have heard of. And it's a 1-year scheme, the Psych Star scheme, and it runs from September to September. So we tie it in with the academic year at medical school. We originally started out with 10 Psych Stars for each cohort, for each annual cohort. This year, for the first time, we appointed an 11th Psych Star, and that was because the Faculty of Psychiatry of Intellectual Disability, or Learning Disability Psychiatry, as you may have heard it called, they wanted to specifically provide the funding for and sponsor their own Psych Star. So we actually have an 11th Psych Star this year. And the great thing about the Psych Star scheme is it's open to medical students in any year of their studies. So the only year that's an exception to that, of course, is final year students, because if you're a final year student, obviously you'd be going into foundation training come August time, so you wouldn't be eligible to become a Psych Star at that point. So I think this is a really important thing, actually, because I know some medical students, they might feel a little bit put off if they're only in their first or second year at medical school. They perhaps might not have done any psychiatry placement as part of their undergraduate curriculum. That shouldn't put you off applying for the scheme. And certainly we've had applicants from medical students in the first or second year, and we'd strongly encourage them to apply as much as applicants in third or fourth year of their studies. And if you've intercalated, because I know lots of medical students now do intercalate, they take a year out of the medical degree to do an intercalation, that is absolutely fine. You are still eligible to apply for the Psych Star scheme, so that shouldn't put you off applying. The one thing that you really have to do, though, is you have to be a student associate of the college. Okay, and to find out further details of that, please do go to the college website, which will tell you how you sign up to become a student associate of the college, or the careers team at the college will be able to get in contact with you to make you aware of that. So you have to be a student associate. Okay. Okay, so the other thing as well is, if you've applied in previous years, that doesn't mean you can't apply again. So if you've applied for the Psych Star scheme last year or the year before, and you're still eligible, please do apply again. Would certainly welcome reapplications. So don't let that put you off. And if you have any sort of disability or health condition, again, that should not at all put you off applying for the Psych Star scheme. The scheme is very much open to all students with any disabilities or health conditions. And the other thing as well is, of course, that medical schools across the UK are eligible. It's not just for English medical schools. It's open to Scottish, Welsh, Northern Irish medical schools as well. And I'm aware that there are more and more medical schools popping up now, and I think we now have about 41. So we particularly welcome applications from the newer medical schools that may have not applied before. And the idea really with the Psych Star scheme is it's very much aimed at those medical students who have an interest in psychiatry as a career, and who are committed to psychiatry as a career, and they can demonstrate evidence of this as part of their application. Okay, so that's really the underlying crux really of applying for the Psych Star scheme, that you have to be able to demonstrate that commitment to specialty. And you may or may not have heard of the college's Foundation Fellowship, which is eligible for foundation trainees. You can still apply for that at a later stage if you are awarded a Psych Star bursary. So don't feel that you can't apply for the Foundation Fellowship. You can still do that at a later stage when you go into foundation training. So what are the benefits of the scheme? Well, what do we offer successful applicants? Well, one of the great things about the Psych Star scheme is that one of the things that we do, which I would argue is probably the most valuable benefit, is we match you up with a mentor. And the mentor is matched both geographically, so where in the UK you're placed, so hopefully somewhere close to where your medical school is, but also matched specifically with your interests. So if you've got a specific area of interest in a certain subspecialty within psychiatry, for example, perinatal psychiatry, then we will match you up with a perinatal psychiatrist. If you're interested in neuropsychiatry, we'll match you up with a neuropsychiatrist. And one of the things that we recognize is the importance really of, having a welcome event and an introduction evening. And obviously now that we're moving out of the COVID-19 pandemic, we're hopeful that the welcome event and introduction evening will be able to do face-to-face at the college. It's really great to be able to meet the Psych Stars, face-to-face, meet them in person in an informal setting, and actually have the opportunity to meet with your peers whom hopefully you'll continue to work with and collaborate with over the course of the 12 months. And one of the great things about the Psych Star scheme is you get free attendance at the International Congress. So this is the flagship event of the Royal College, running in Edinburgh this June. It's a 4-day event, and you will get free attendance at that 4-day event, and that includes funds towards travel and accommodation. Again, a really great opportunity to network and to meet with the other Psych Stars, and also to listen to some world-renowned international speakers and find out about some of the latest developments in psychiatry. And we'll give you free access to the continuous professional development online modules. So there's over 225 of them and 140 podcasts. So there's a nice bit of education and learning for you, as well as free access to the trainees online resources as well. Now that supports those core trainees in psychiatry that are doing their membership exams. And of course, we recognize that with Psych Stars, often they have, a particular interest in the academic aspect of psychiatry. So perhaps, academic psychiatry is what they're really interested in. So we give you free subscriptions to the important psychiatric journals. So the British Journal of Psychiatry, the BJ Psych Bulletin, and BJ Psych Advances as well. So you'll get free subscriptions for the 12 months. And we will give you travel funds or bursary of £500 that you can use towards attending conferences, courses, and any events of interest. But you can also use it towards your medical elective as well in psychiatry if you choose to do so. Okay, so that's £500 as well towards that. So what about the application process? Well, you have to produce a statement of how you would spend the Psych Star funding, and you're allowed a maximum of 500 words. So what we get you to do then is to then answer the question in no more than 500 words, what would you hope to achieve in your career as a psychiatrist? Please outline how you will prepare, for this, both personally and professionally. Okay, and we ask all applicants to submit a 1-page CV as well. It's very good practice for you guys as medical students to, produce a CV. It's something you'll be doing a lot of in your later careers, and to list any sort of previous awards or bursaries or prizes that you may have received from the Royal College of Psychiatrists, or indeed any other Royal College, university, charity, or other organisation as well. Okay. And the important thing when you're thinking about how to answer those questions as part of your application is that you need to think carefully about how you incorporate the college's values. And what you need to do is to go onto the college website, find out a little bit about the college's core values, and really hold them in mind and think about how you can incorporate them into your answers as part of your application. Now, what we were doing pre-COVID, and what we're certainly hoping to do now post-COVID, is to invite shortlisted applicants for interview at the college. And I think that gives us a fantastic opportunity to meet applicants face to face, and for you to prepare for an interview. So we will be looking to interview shortlisted applicants at the college in London. Of course, we recognise that not everyone is able to travel to the college, so there is certainly the opportunity to conduct that interview remotely if that's going to be easier for the applicant. So we can be flexible with that. Now, I mentioned that for this year's Psych Star cohort, there is a Psych Star specifically for psychiatry of intellectual disability. So we're still in the process of determining any other faculties that are also going to fund specific individual Psych Star awards. So for those faculty specific awards, you will need to answer the question in no more than 500 words. Please outline your interest in the specific subspecialty of psychiatry and how you have or intend to explore this subspecialty. So if you've got a specific interest in intellectual disability psychiatry, or perhaps one of the other faculties as well, if they're going to provide funding for a Psych Star award, then that's how we're going to ask you to complete your application for that particular award. So sometimes I think medical students worry that it's only students from London medical schools that are going to get allocated these type of awards and bursaries. And I just really wanted to put this table up just to show you that that is absolutely not the case. I think one of the fantastic things about the Psych Star scheme is the reach has been far and wide, and we've had Psych Stars from Scotland, from Wales, lots of them from England, as you'd expect. But this will just give you an idea of the breadth. Admittedly, in the first year, half the Psych Stars, came from King's or Cambridge. And what we found as we've gone from successive years is actually that medical schools that historically would not have submitted applications to the Psych Star scheme are now starting to submit applications, and we're seeing the level of interest grow across all the medical schools. So don't be put off, don't be deterred if you're not at a London medical school, or perhaps, if you're at one of the newer medical schools, that's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't apply for this scheme. So please do think about that. So just very finally then, tips for applying. Well, one of the things that I did in preparing this slide was I asked one of the previous Psych Stars about what sort of things she would advise any potential applicants for the scheme. So don't worry if you've only got a little bit of specific psychiatry experience. So this is particularly for those students that perhaps, in their early years of their medicine degree, first or second year. So it's really about showing what you plan to do and what you've learned from your previous experiences. Okay, we recognize that if you're in the first or second year, you won't have done 4 weeks of general adult psychiatry and 4 weeks in a forensic psychiatric ward. Do seek help and input from other students that have applied for the scheme previously. And certainly our current Psych Stars, and we've got 3 of them with us tonight, I believe, they're going to tell you a little bit about their own personal journey as Psych Stars. I'm sure that they'll be happy to advise you and guide you. And if you are shortlisted for an interview, do try and practice, get some interview practice in, because that does help alleviate some of that anxiety, particularly if you've not done an interview for a while. It can be a nerve-wracking process. And get other people to read your application. One of the things I would suggest is that you find out who your undergraduate psychiatry lead is at your medical school and ask them to have a read of your application to see if they can help you and support you with that. That's certainly something that I do for Liverpool medical students. I know Helen Crimlis does that with Sheffield medical students, and we know there are lots of really enthusiastic undergraduate leads across the UK. And you've really got to show how you're going to be an ambassador for psychiatry and how you're going to personally grow. All right. But it's important as well to be genuine, creative, but genuine with what you plan to do. Be realistic about what you plan to do with your Psych Star scheme bursary award. You're not going to change the world, but we're looking for creativity, but originality as well. And we've actually surveyed the Psych Star schemes previously, and this was presented at last year's RCPsych Medical Education Conference. And what we found was actually that everyone who participated in the scheme found the scheme to be enjoyable, and they were able to set sort of clear aims and objectives. And things that were really highly rated were things like the funded place at the International Congress, the opportunity to have a mentor, but also to be a real ambassador for psychiatry and an ambassador for the college. and to explore areas of psychiatry that are of particular interest that perhaps they wouldn't have been able to explore without the support of the Psych Star scheme. So that's one of the real pluses of the scheme. And all but one of the Psych Star schemes that we included within the survey were more likely to apply for psychiatry core training at the end of it. So that was really, really pleasing to see. And we just came out with this final comment. I found being a Psych Star provided an amazing opportunity to network and collaborate with fellow medical students interested in psychiatry, as well as a large number of incredibly kind psychiatrists who were happy to provide mentorship. Lots of psychiatrists are really keen to mentor medical students. We really want to increase that undergraduate interest in the specialty. Okay, and I think just a quick slide about some of the improvements that we're looking to make for the Psych Start scheme moving forwards that hopefully you'll be able to be part of and actually help to inform just some of the things that we're always trying to improve the scheme year on year. And I think it's been difficult with the COVID-19 pandemic, but hopefully as we now move away from that and return to sort of more face-to-face events and conferences, etc., that will help us to work more collaboratively together and to ensure that we're actually meeting on a regular basis, because I like to know what you guys are up to as Psych Stars, and it's great to hear of how your projects and ideas are coming along, and particularly you know, when there's collaborative working between Psych Stars, it's great to see you guys working together as Psych Stars to achieve common goals. Okay. All right, I think that's it from me. So I'm going to hand over now to our current Psych Stars, who I believe are going to talk a little bit about their own personal journey.
Actually, Declan, it is me next.
Oh, right, sorry, apologies, Hayley.
No worries at all. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My presentation is going to overlap with some of what Declan has already said. Great minds think alike. Declan, do you just want to turn off your camera for a minute? That would be great, thank you. Okay, yes, an oversight, we didn't share our presentations with each other, so we didn't realise that we have covered a lot of the same thing, but that is fine. I will skim over the parts that Declan has kindly already covered. So I'm just sharing my screen. Okay, I believe everybody should be able to see that now. Okay, so my name is Hayley Shaw and I am a careers coordinator at the college, and my role is to support the administrative side of the scheme. So I'm going to skim over the parts that Declan has already covered. Obviously, this scheme will start the 1st of September 2022 and end the 1st of September 2023. There are actually 10 general Psych Star posts for this year, and there are some faculty-specific Psych Star posts which have been agreed now with the faculties, so I will share those with you shortly. As Declan has said, the scheme provides an opportunity to receive mentoring and advice and engage in network opportunities and to receive financial support. I believe Declan has covered these points. Just some examples of, just bear with me, I just realised I'm not moving my slide. Some examples of how previous Psych Stars have used their funding include conferences, buying textbooks, covering elective costs, travel and accommodation, computer hardware and software, but ultimately anything psychiatry related. Sometimes we will ask for your mentor's approval for certain items. In terms of eligibility, again, I believe Declan has covered most of this. We are going to put a link in the chat for how you can sign up to be a student associate member of the college. It's pretty straightforward, but if you have any difficulties signing up, then you can email the careers email and we will put that in the chat towards the end. Okay, so some key dates for applications. So you might want to make a note of these. The application window opens at 9 AM on Tuesday, the 31st of May. And our webpage will be updated by that time with all the information you need. So if you look at our website today, it won't have all the up-to-date information, but by 9 AM on Tuesday, the 31st of May, all the information that you need to apply will be covered on there. The application deadline is midnight on the 4th of July. And the Psych Stars who have been successfully appointed will be notified in early August 2022. Okay, and the application process, so Declan has covered this, but just to explain, you will be required to submit points 1 to 4 in one single PDF document. So that's really important. And you will send that through to the careers email, which is stated there. Oh, sorry, I've gone to the wrong slide. There we go. Okay, bear with me. So it's important that you remove any identifying information from each part of your application. So this includes removing names, organisations and universities. And the point of this is to be fair to everyone and remove any unconscious bias from the marking process. So what is important is when you send through your email with your single PDF document, in the body of your email somewhere you put your full name. So that when I will be going through the applications and putting them in a format for the judges, I will have your name and your application together somewhere, but the judges won't see your name or anything else that could identify who you are. Okay, so as Declan mentioned, we are really pleased that we have some specific faculty-specific Psych Star opportunities for this year. So as well as the general Psych Star opportunity, you can also apply to be a faculty-specific Psych Star. 10 faculties have an opportunity for a Psych Star this year. These are addictions, child and adolescent, eating disorders, forensic, general adult, intellectual disability, liaison, medical psychotherapy, old age and perinatal. And if you become a faculty-specific Psych Star, you will receive dedicated support from the faculty through a faculty-specific mentor throughout the scheme. And in order to apply, you complete all of the points on the previous slide, so points 1 to 4, and then you will answer the faculty-specific question. Now, the way it will work is when the website goes live on Tuesday at 9 AM, you will see that for each faculty, there is a faculty-specific question. So you'll need to make sure that you answer that in addition to points 1 to 4. And the other thing to mention is please specify in your application whether you're applying for the general Psych Star scheme post and a faculty-specific Psych Star, or if you're just applying for the faculty-specific Psych Star. You can apply for the general Psych Star scheme and as many different faculty Psych Stars positions as you like. Okay, so as I've said, I'm the supporting the administrative side of the Psych Star scheme. So if you have any questions that aren't answered today or any questions that come up after today, feel free to email me at the above address, and then keep an eye on our website when all the key information will go live on Tuesday at 9 AM. Thank you very much. I am now going to be handing over to our Psych Stars, and the first Psych Star who will speak with you is Manu.
Hello everyone. Can you all hear me well?
We can,
Yes,
we can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. Well, if I ever cut out or if you ever can't hear me very clearly, then just let me know and I'll be happy to repeat anything. But first of all, thank you very much for having me, of course. The introduction so far has been very helpful. Lots of good tips and a great overview of what the Psych Star Award entails. I hope I can continue to share with you my experience and some useful advice as well. All of you attending today have actually already shown some good dedication towards applying, and all of the knowledge and insight you gain today is well deserved. So continue to make the most of it. You have two very good speakers following as well, my fellow Psych Stars, Becca and Ratnu. So looking forward to getting into it. I'm just going to try and share my screen now, and I'd like to just let me know if you can see my screen. Can you all see this?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Fantastic. Thank you for confirming. Okay, so as Hayley mentioned, thank you. My name is Manu Sidhu, and I'm a final year medical student at Imperial College School of Medicine. I'll just start by introducing myself and explain why I chose psychiatry. Then I'll talk about my year as a Psych Star and any tips I have for applying. So I'm about to graduate from Imperial College. Fortunately, passed my final exams, and I'm actually on my medical school elective right now. As you can see from the background behind me, I'm not in my usual home. I'm in Tokyo, in fact, and my bedroom in the hotel doesn't have very good Wi-Fi, so I've had to come outside into the kind of lobby area. So that's where I'm speaking to you from today. So as it says on the slide, I'm very interested in working at the intersection of mental health and technology, and that has led me to organize for my elective to be at a mental health technology startup in Tokyo, who do some really cool work. I really wanted to make the most of being able to travel, of course, and I'll come into a little bit later how the Psych Star played a great role in that. But just to tell you a little bit about the work I'm doing, I'm working with this mental health tech startup called Hikari Lab, and they make video games for CBT. So they gamify CBT into 7 different levels, like 7 different sessions, and the user plays the game and in a gamified way interacts with the gaming environment to go through the sorts of topics that you would go through in CBT, such as identifying unhelpful thoughts and then eliminating unhelpful thoughts, that kind of thing. I'm here today to share any advice and insights I have that may be useful for you, and to, of course, share my experience about being a Psych Star and answer any questions that you may have at the very end. So first of all, why did I choose psychiatry in the first place? Why was I even drawn to the Royal College of Psychiatrists website, in fact? So like all medical students, we applied to medical school hoping to improve quality of life for patients. And throughout my time at medical school, the first few years, from my placements in psychiatry and from mainly actually helping friends and family going through mental health issues, as well as just becoming a bit more introspective and meditative myself, I actually realized that the quality of our life is largely determined by the quality of our mind. And it's the same reason why perhaps a prince in Saudi Arabia may be depressed, while someone living in much more underprivileged conditions, say in a slum in India, with being a single parent with many kids, mouths to feed and unemployed, they can be actually very grateful for everything they have in life and very happy. So that just shows that it's not really our circumstances that determine how we feel and think, it's how we process them. And that really led me to be curious about the mind and how we can help people who process things in unhealthy ways for them, help them just think a little bit more positively and dig into where mental illness can really unfold and harm us. So that's why I'm really interested in psychiatry. Of course, mental health needs us as well. There's huge unmet needs. The conditions are really poorly understood at the moment compared to other physical health conditions. So there's loads of room for research and developing our understanding. And of course, I'm just fascinated and curious by the stunning complexity of the human condition, and any opportunity to learn about that also develops an element of personal growth as well. So all of these reasons have led me to psychiatry. And that's, of course, what led me to apply to be a Psych Star and to kind of think about why we want to be a Psych Star in the first place. We have to think about why the scheme exists, which I'll go on to in more detail on the next page. But just for now, just simply put, it's to give opportunities for medical students to train and develop into psychiatrists and just pursue that field, see if it's for them or not. My year, I've really enjoyed identifying as a budding psychiatrist in this way, and it's really given me that push and empowerment to go and seek out opportunities and grasp them with both hands, feeling like I am really committed to this path of becoming a psychiatrist. It kind of gave me that confidence boost to really go for it in a sense. And of course, the regular mentorship meetings were extremely useful. My mentor, I was very fortunate to have someone who regularly wanted to have calls and ask me, what opportunities have you come across since we last spoke? And what can we do to make the most of them? These kinds of things just pushing me, guiding me to achieve my goals. Of course, the e-learning platforms, the Royal College of Psychiatrists, CPD and Trainees Online program cover so many fascinating modules. If you're interested in any areas, I use these actually when I came across friends and family going through particular issues, so I could develop a bit more of an awareness of what they're going through and how I can help them. Of course, the Royal College of Psychiatrists journals are fantastic as well. The British Journal of Psychiatry, the Psychiatrist, and Advances in Psychiatric Treatment. My favorite article over the past year was actually one article examining the psychiatric diagnoses in The Joker, in the film starred by Joaquin Phoenix, that new one. And that was just fascinating because I love the film, and picking apart the psych behind it was really interesting. Of course, networking and opportunity building is a huge part of being a Psych Star. Through my mentor and through other Psych Stars, through other members of the faculty, I've been able to find opportunities for research and just working on creative projects. Some that have led to publications and poster presentations at the Royal College of Psychiatrists annual flagship conference that's coming up, International Congress, which does lead me conveniently onto the next point, which is that you get a generous free invitation there, where you will, of course, act as an ambassador of the Royal College of Psychiatrists. It's still to come, so very much looking forward to that. So I don't, have quite the experience of having gone through it yet, but really looking forward to that. And again, it's one of the examples of how the Royal College of Psychiatrists, through this scheme, lower barriers for people to access opportunities in psychiatry, because the accommodation, travel, and the ticket, of course, is funded by the college. So that's really enabled me to go, and I wouldn't have been able to go otherwise. So that's been great. Of course, I use my funding, the £525 for my flights to come to Tokyo and do my elective. So really so grateful for that. And overall, my year so far has just given me a greater understanding of what it means to be a psychiatrist, which led me to apply for the Psychiatry Foundation Fellowship, which I was fortunate to be awarded as well. And for me, that's kind of an extension of this Psych Star award. So that's my year as a Psych Star, and just wanted to give you some tips for applying now. So as I said, you really need to understand why this scheme exists, and it's to build the future leaders in psychiatry, promote opportunities for them to develop their career, and essentially act as a bridge between you now as a student at medical school and specializing in psychiatry, helping you along the steps to develop, an understanding of if it's for you and the kind of CV builders that you might need to have a competitive application for training and that sort of thing. With regard to your application, really try and bring this through, help them feel like they are reading the application of someone who's destined to be this real, empathetic and respectful person who could be a great psychiatrist one day. I would recommend being as specific as possible. I know it was mentioned before in Declan's presentation, but just to give you a little bit more on that, when you explain what your funding's for, you can say which courses, conferences, books, or elective you're planning, how much each element of that costs, and why you want to do those specific things. Really break it down into loads of detail, make it seem like you've really thought things through. In fact, don't just make it seem that way, actually think it through and show that in your answers as well. For the long answer questions, I'd really recommend making as powerful a story as you possibly can behind all of your answers. Really try and take the reader, of course, the people deciding from the college, take them through a journey of how you've gone from maybe not knowing so much about a field into facing a challenge and overcoming that with a newfound understanding. And just my last slide, really a great model for this is actually the hero's journey, which is made by Professor Joseph Campbell. He was a prolific writer on the human experience, and he came up with this kind of character arc that is often played out in many, and in fact, most films, stories. A lot of it's credited to Shakespeare in his plays, but Star Wars, Harry Potter, you name it, a lot of these films they follow this kind of arc of a character experiencing something very striking, feeling challenged. They then feel very curious and compelled to learn more. They experience some sort of newfound understanding, and that's led to them becoming a wiser, more empathetic or more respectful person, as I said, whichever qualities you're trying to demonstrate. But just following this kind of arc and showing where you've grown and how you've gone from, from the very beginning, and how you've learned from your experiences, this kinds of thing, just bringing it all together into a really smooth narrative. That's my main advice really for the application. And that's everything from me. So I look forward to hearing answering any questions that you may have at the very end. And I've put my email there if you want to ask any further questions beyond the scope of today. If you don't have any, if you think of things after the event. So that's everything from me. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll hand it back over.
Thank you so much, Manu, for that excellent and informative presentation. We are now handing over to Becca Gilmore, I believe.
Hi, I'll just get out my slides. Hi, so my name is Becca Gilmore, and I'm a final year medical student at the UEA. And in July, I start my foundation job in Norwich. So thank you for this opportunity to speak. It feels quite surreal being on this side of the talk, because last year I was an attendee thinking about applying. So yeah, it was good. So I guess a similar structure to Manu's talk. First, I thought I'd talk about why psychiatry, because I think my sort of route is not exactly usual, because I actually started medical school, and when I was first thinking about being a doctor, I started very much against psychiatry. I thought, no, I'm definitely not going to do that. And I was much more interested in obs and gynae. However, as things progressed, I was drawn to psychiatry. I was seemingly finding psychiatry in everything that I was doing, always thinking why. And any learning objective we had, I ended up writing so much for the sort of psychiatry or psychological impacts, LO, and sort of not much in the others. So that was signs that I was interested in psychiatry. And I'm someone with a lot of lived experience. And I think as I came to peace with that, and I had really good intervention from psychiatrists and psychologists, I became more open to psychiatry. So I think a combination of those things led me to think, actually, this is something I can do. I've got a passion for it, and it's something that really interests me. And I'm particularly interested in child and adolescent psychiatry. When I was on my placement, I am speaking to adults with really horrible, severe mental health issues. You talk to them and they'd say, oh, in my childhood, this happened, this happened, this happened. And you just think, oh, there's something that happened in your childhood. I'm not saying you have a perfect life, but it would have been a lot better than it is now. So that's why child and adolescent psychiatry is so important to me. And these interventions can really transform people's trauma, as it did with me. And I think instead of having adults weighed down by their childhood, you can really transform it, and they can hopefully live a good quality life. And I did speak about this in my application. And I'm not saying that you need a sob story or you need lived experience to be a psychiatrist or to be part of the scheme. But if you have it, it's okay to mention it, and not just to just say, oh, I had this happen to me, but to say, how has this shaped you? How does this motivate you to become a psychiatrist? And moreover, I think lived experience can be a really powerful thing. I think patients can really see through it, and maybe they can tell when people have had lived experience. So yeah, don't shy away from it, but then you don't have to have it to be a psychiatrist either. This is a painting by Van Gogh. It's called Roots, and it's the last painting Van Gogh ever did. before he took his own life. And it's just quite poignant to me because we're all here to stop people getting to this point. So I thought I would briefly discuss what I did before the psych scheme. And I was heavily involved in the Obs and Gynae Society, so it's not your typical psychiatry and sort of CV. I've been involved with it like the whole of med school, and I was president for 2 years. But a lot of the things I did were very much through the psychiatry lens. One of the events I'm most proud of is the hidden pandemic, domestic abuse during COVID-19, where we discussed what had gone on and how we can stop it. And I was also involved in a podcast about this event as well. I did some research about the psychosexual effects of PCOS, so Obs and Gynae psychiatry combined, and I found myself very much interested in the psychology of it. So that's what led me to think, yeah, psychiatry is the one for me. And the Psych Stars scheme has just offered me so many opportunities that I'm really grateful for. I had a lot of ideas about what I would do with the scheme and when I first applied, but this changed quite a lot after speaking to my mentor. So I would say, firstly, the biggest thing that is provided for me is opportunity through the bursary. So I'm able to go to conferences that I otherwise just would not have been able to afford. So I'm presenting at the European Congress of Psychiatry and the World Mental Health Congress. I'm also, as Manu said, attending the Royal College of Psychiatry International Congress, which I'm really looking forward to. And I also attended the Eastern Division Spring Conference, which I only found out through the Psych Star scheme. And then the other part of the scheme, which has been invaluable, is my mentor, Dr. Maxwell, who is the head of CAMS in the Norfolk and Suffolk area. And she's just been really helpful with my research. I sort of went to her with this idea about, I want to do something about the number of self-diagnoses of ADHD in TikTok, but I don't know how to make that academic or interesting to more academic people. And she really helped me sort of consolidate my ideas and to come up with a plan. And she also guided me with conferences and books to purchase. I took a picture of the books I've got so far, some of which she recommended me. Also, a great part of the scheme is you get the British Journal of Psychiatry sent to your door every month, which has been really interesting to read. You also get access to the online modules. So the one I'm doing at the moment is the Complex Humanitarian Emergencies, Mental Health and Psychosocial Response. That's something I just have not learned about at medical school, so that's been interesting learning about that, especially with Ukraine at the moment. You also get access to databases on the Royal Psych website, and I was able to use those resources, which my uni don't provide, to help myself write an essay, which I've submitted. It was the Royal College CAMS essay. I used those resources to hopefully make a good essay, but we'll see. So those are some of the things that the Psych Stars scheme has given me. Also, it's just been, we have regular meetings with the other Psych Stars, and it's just been really interesting to hear what other people have been doing and to sort of bounce ideas and think, oh, okay, they're doing that actually, what if I do this? And which is just like a rare opportunity I wouldn't have without the Psych Stars scheme. But I think the biggest opportunity that the Psych Stars scheme has given me is my elective at MAP. So MAP stands for the Mancroft Device Project. So at UEA, we do our elective after finals, which is 6 weeks, it should come to end of now. And I decided to do mine at MAP. They're a young person's charity, so they're for people aged 11 to 25. They work with individual young people to directly help them, but they also help influence wider policies, both the local governments, the council, and also nationally, so that they'll speak at Parliament regularly. They had never had a med student before, and apparently were quite against students. They're quite a closed charity. You know, to get in, you have to be very trusted because you're dealing with quite vulnerable young people, and a lot of the people who use their service are people who do not like doctors and don't really trust doctors, and they come to the Mancroft Device Project to get help in a different way. But I said to them, I submitted, why I want to be a psychiatrist, and I said, I'm a Psych Star. And I think just the title saying, this is who I am, there's a title to it, gave them confidence and reassurance that I would be a good fit for this elective. They didn't directly say that, but it was quite heavily implied. So that title, I think, is the reason I got this amazing opportunity. And it's been the best experience I've had in med school, and it will no doubt influence my future practice. They are an incredibly young person-centered charity. And one of the aspects that they do is they run a mental health drop-in by mental health advisors. So not doctors, not nurses, not psychologists, just mental health advisors. And this is where young people aged 11 to 25 can just drop in and talk about their mental health. This can then lead to other things, but it's all young person led. And I've just learned so much by shadowing that. And of course they do so many other things I could talk to you all day about. But it's been an incredibly refreshing experience, and I'll no doubt stay in contact with them throughout my whole career. They're also involved with a local CAMS psychiatrist who they set up a meeting with me, and he recommended writing an article for the BJ Psych journal about my experiences and sort of what has been missed in med school that I've learned at MAP. Which is something I didn't think I'd be able to do. But again, this is not directly, but sort of indirectly because of the Psych Star scheme that I'm having this opportunity. So that's something that I'm writing at the moment. Because even I go to UEA and it's sort of known for being very biopsychosocial heavy, even then we miss quite a lot of things out. We focus very heavily on the medical side, which is very important, of course, but we miss a lot of the social stuff. And I think we don't listen to young people as much as we should. And so I'm in the process of writing that. Yes, that's an opportunity that I got through Psych Star. So again, and that wasn't something I expected to happen. So that's kind of my talk. I'm happy to be contacted by email or on Twitter. And if you want to find out more about MAP, because I'd love to talk about it all day, that's the website. And thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Becca. If you would like to, yes, you've stopped sharing. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and all the information. I'm sure that was really useful and interesting to everyone watching and listening. If we have Ratnu with us now, then
you do indeed.
Wonderful. I will let you give your talk.
Fantastic. Well, firstly, it's lovely to see so many people that are interested in the Psych Star scheme and interested in psychiatry. Unfortunately, I'm in the middle of my final, so there's been no slides for you. So you're gonna have to look at my ugly face the next 10 to 15 minutes. So what am I going to be talking to you about today? We're talking to you a little bit about why I applied for the Psych Star scheme, my background, and why I wanted to do the psychiatry of intellectual disability. We're talking a bit about the scheme itself and some tips if you're particularly interested in the psychiatry of ID. So firstly, who am I and why should you actually bother listening to what I have to say? So I'm a final year medical student at the University of Newcastle, currently joining you from my living room in sunny Sunderland. From August, if fingers crossed I pass my finals, I'll be starting a foundation priority program in leadership and management in the Northeast. So a little bit about why I wanted to do the psychiatry of ID and apply for the Psych Stars scheme, particularly for intellectual disability. So a bit about my background is that I actually grew up looking after my younger brother as a sibling carer who has quite profound learning disabilities. And when I started medical school, and even before that, there's always that thing in the background of you have these kinds of people within your life, you see these people around you, how best to actually influence their care and how best to ensure that society, healthcare systems, and health in general is best tailored to suit their needs. So even before starting medical school, I did advocacy work at Sheffield City Council, where I was from a young carer's perspective. So not only addressing the mental health of the people that they care for, but of the carers themselves, to looking from that broader holistic idea of what makes good care, what makes good mental health, and how systems can support people. And throughout medical school, you have this idea and you have the emphasis on looking after the patient, on sort of this really patient-centered approach. But what's also important is a systemic approach and a systems-focused approach, which is why one of the things that I really wanted to get out of it was an idea of a more sort of holistic idea of how can we actually address the systems and structures that make healthcare what it is. So I was paired up with a mentor who was really big on her leadership and management, Professor Catherine Bright. And one of the main benefits of the scheme for me has been having those conversations and having the interactions with leaders in the field, not just addressing patients on their individual perspective, but how you can make change on a much bigger level. And that's one of the most powerful things about sort of psychiatry, about mental health, about looking at healthcare systems as a whole, is that not only are you impacting the people in front of you, but also you have the ability to impact change for those around you on a much broader scale. And that's one of the things that I was sort of drawn to in that ability to have that bigger impact. So I initially wanted to go for it because even throughout my sort of medical school career, I was quite interested in leadership, in management, and specifically how that relates to the quality of life for people with intellectual disabilities. So being able to have those conversations and really network, one of the really other big advantages has been just to be in contact with people in the faculty. So for instance, the head of the faculty, the head of training, the trainee reps, all of these people have such a vested interest in the care and the quality of life outcomes for people with intellectual disabilities. And that's been such a good thing to be put in place in those networks, make those contacts, and sort of set yourself up for a career which you know you can make a difference. So a little bit about what I've done throughout the scheme. I'm working on a survey to send out to medical students on what their ideas and experiences are of intellectual disability, and how we can actually impact and influence the curriculum with regards to getting more intellectual disability out there. I've also used some of my funding for a tripod. I have a medical education YouTube channel where me and one of my housemates from last year, we do psychiatry OSCE videos. We're doing some videos on psychopharmacology, on intellectual disability, and all of these other things, which is not only good to sort of share with other people, it's also good for your own revision, because I noticed there was quite a big gap there. So that's been really useful in that sense. I'm also really looking forward to attending the RCPsych International Congress, along with the other Psych Stars and so many other brilliant psychiatrists and people with lived experience. So if we think about some of the sort of tips for applying and what you want to sort of get out specifically of intellectual disability and the faculty specific things, one of the things is to sort of know who it is that you're wanting to care for. So because of my past experience as someone who is a carer, and also through my voluntary work, through research, other projects, etc., I was put in touch with a lot of individuals who had intellectual disabilities and autism spectrum disorder. And from that, it was really valuable in order to write about it and write about, you know, some of the actual challenges that they're facing. For instance, one of the big agendas is something called STOMP and Transforming Care, which is about reducing the overprescription of antipsychotics and also ensuring people with intellectual disabilities and autism spectrum disorders don't stay in hospitals for too long. So having that awareness of the broader systemic issues facing people in your particular faculty group is really important. And for that, I strongly recommend getting on the wards, contacting people in the field who have those experiences and who know the patient group, and trying to get involved as early as possible in all of these different things. And the Psych Stars scheme will help to facilitate that as well with the mentor. So just sort of going on to other things to mention in the application process. It doesn't necessarily matter if you've not done a huge amount. I was quite fortunate in that I was the president of my Psych Stock beforehand, so I had quite a few experiences. I think what the sort of application team is looking for, they're not looking for a sort of finished, polished person. They're looking for someone with ideas, with ambition, with that drive to really improve patients' quality of life, become an ambassador, and try and change the world a little bit for the better. So if you have any questions about intellectual disability, about the Psych Star scheme, more than happy to take them. But I strongly recommend, if you're interested in improving the quality of life for quite vulnerable people, I'd really recommend going for the ID Psych Star scheme. But thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ratnu, for your presentation and all the information you've provided. I'm sure everybody really enjoyed it. So we are ahead of time, which is great and really happens on these things. So what we're going to do now is start the Q&A session. So we will have all three Psych Stars, Declan and myself, going through the questions that have been submitted. So what I will do, I'm going to look at the Q&A and read out the question and then make a suggestion for who can answer it. So the first question we have, which I think, Declan, this might be one for you. How many applications do you typically have for the Psych Star scheme?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I think this is something that a lot of people worry about. We typically, over the 3 years, we've had around about between about 95 and 120 applicants per year. Yeah, it's a reasonable number, but certainly I wouldn't let that deter anyone from applying, but around about 100.
That's great, thank you, Declan. Okay, what if an individual is offered multiple roles, like both the general and a faculty specific role? Will they have to decide on one or be able to accept both? Declan, another one for you, I think.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, they will have to accept one. We would ask them to really choose, whether they would prefer the faculty specific award or the general award. I mean, I would assume that they would probably prefer the faculty specific award, but we would ask that candidate to make a choice. Unfortunately, you can't be awarded 2 Psych Star awards.
Thank you, Declan. I can see there's a question, how many Psych Star places are there on offer this year? I'll just go ahead and confirm that that is 10 general Psych Star places and 1 Psych Star for each of the faculties that I mentioned earlier. And for a reminder of those faculties that will have 1 Psych Star place, please check our website from 9 AM on Tuesday. I can answer the next one about the funding. There's a question with respect to the £500 funding. Is this paid up front for the individual choose throughout the year, or is it an invoice through the college? So for this one, this is a case of you have to submit a request via a system for different things that you want to spend the £500 on. So you submit that to us and we would either approve that right away or we would ask for you to send in an approval from your mentor. Okay, thank you. Declan, one for yourself. Are we able to apply if we're starting medical school this September?
Yeah, you would be eligible because you'd be a first year medical student. So we invite applications from any year bar the final year students. So, ultimately it's about demonstrating an interest in and commitment to psychiatry. So I would welcome any applications for those going into medical school in September. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, absolutely the case with that one. Although you must bear in mind that you will need to be enrolled on your course by the start of the Psych Star scheme, so by the 1st of September. Somebody has asked a question, do we remove identifiable information from the CV as well? Should we also anonymize organisations like Charities that we have done work with? I believe that is the case. Declan, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe.
Yeah, that is the case, Hayley. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Okay. What would you advise a younger medic who hasn't studied psychiatry in medical school yet?
Should we bring in the Psych Stars, or do you guys want to give a bit of advice?
Yeah, I can do that. So I hadn't actually studied the psychiatry module yet when I applied. It was actually the month after I applied that I studied it. But I think in any module you can find the psychiatry in it and draw on that. So I'd studied like gastro before, so the eating disorders, cardiology, you can talk about, motivations and risk factors. that psychiatry isn't every single speciality. So I would encourage you to draw on experiences from other areas. It doesn't have to be specifically this is psychiatry module, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Becca. That's great. A question, how many places are there across the nation?
Is that per nation? You mean in terms of England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland? I think I just need a bit of clarity on what they mean.
To be honest, if the person who has asked that question is still around, then feel free to clarify that.
What I can say definitively is that we don't, what we essentially aim to do is to appoint, we will essentially aim to appoint the 20 best applicants. So there isn't a sort of an absolute requirement that X number must be from Wales, Y number must be from Scotland, Z number must be from England. So, obviously we invite medical students from all UK medical schools to apply, but effectively we're looking for the 20 highest scoring, best performing applicants.
Thank you, Declan. A question about any feedback. Will there be any feedback for unsuccessful applicants?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I'd love to say yes, but it's difficult to be precise on how much feedback you'd get, given the fact that there may well be 70 or 80 unsuccessful applicants. I suppose that's certainly something we can look at doing, and I think it's particularly helpful if you're thinking you're going to apply again the following year. So I think that's a maybe. I think we'll have to put that down as a maybe, Hayley. Okay,
no problem. We will look into that. Manu, there is a question for you. Thank you for your informative talk so far. Your elective sounds fantastic. Would you be able to expand more on how you found it and how the Psych Star mentoring has helped in developing that passion?
Absolutely, yeah. So, Imperial have their elective in the final year. Other medical schools have it in other years. Fortunately, we were one of the first year to open back up for international electives after the pandemic. So I only just about scraped it in, but up until the time to sort the elective out, several months before, it did take a lot of planning, a lot of sending emails to all of the companies and institutions that I was hoping to do my elective with. And to be honest with you, because it was just off the back of the pandemic, 99% said no. So it really was a numbers game. You have to apply as much as possible. And my mentor really encouraged me to just keep going. Really, the more you send an email to, the more likely you are to get a place. So I think just coaching me in terms of keeping belief, because it really did go several months without actually having any yes, but yeah, it does take a lot of dedication there. Expanding upon how I've found it, it has really been phenomenal. It's the first time, first of all, solo traveling, which has been a really unique experience to understand and be immersed in the culture in Japan. Really wonderful culture, such generous, kind people, and amazing customs that reflect that as well. Of course, when it comes to the mental health cultural aspect, they have quite a lot of stigma and pressure to not actually share so much and open up, which is why making a game has been particularly successful there, because a lot of people there, particularly into technology, have enjoyed or have found solace really in a game when they weren't able to quite get over the intimidating barrier of seeking mental health treatment traditionally. So that's a little bit about why I wanted to do it there, and just learning about how to make a gaming software, the sort of regulations that you have to pass in order to certify as a medical device in North America, Europe, Japan. I've also been able to help the company with a few of their other things, like their other research papers that they want me to review. So it really has been a fantastic experience, and I'll be writing a report on that as well, which hopefully can be shared with you somehow. Perhaps we can facilitate that through the Psych Stars reflecting upon their year somewhat. But yeah, hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much, Manu, for answering that one. Another question for our Psych Stars. Would the current students be able to give any tips for securing a psychiatry elective? Not quite Psych Star related. So I'm not sure. Declan, is this one that we should maybe?
Yeah, I suppose it's probably not, it's not really specific to the scheme. I think it's just I think Manu sort of highlight the point, perseverance more than anything. I mean, he's in Tokyo, he's very lucky. In Liverpool, all our students are doing their elective UK based, so he's lucky to get to Tokyo. I think it's I would suggest getting in contact with your undergraduate psychiatry lead at your medical school is the best thing.
I'm happy to answer this.
Go ahead.
Okay, Ratnu, yeah, please.
Yeah, so my elective period for Newcastle was actually in our 4th year, which is mid-COVID. So I think now that things are opening up again, what's really, really important is have something that you actually want to achieve. So for instance, have a particular set of patients that you want to see, have an idea what it is that you actually want to do. Okay, I want to do 6 weeks clinical, I want to do 6 weeks research, I want to do 6 weeks leadership management, and talk to people early. Twitter is a really, really good resource for meeting and networking with lots of clinicians in an area that you're probably interested in. So I know that I've made a lot of my contacts and lots of people that I regularly talk to through Twitter. So I think that I would strongly, strongly recommend getting on Twitter if you're not already on it, and actually just sort of seeing what it is that people are tweeting about. They're tweeting about their research, they're tweeting about policy, they're tweeting about all of that kind of stuff, and be opportunistic in the sense that if you see someone that you think is going to be quite interesting to sort of be shadowing for a few weeks, just get in touch and just ask. The worst thing that can happen is people say no.
Thank you. That's great. Okay, we've got a question, quite a good question actually. I'm not too sure about it myself. The question is, in terms of anonymizing our CV, can we include titles of publications which are potentially identifying, or should we just list the journal, date, and level of authorship? Declan?
Yeah, I think that will be okay. I mean, I think the main thing that we want to try and do is ensure that you know, those that are sort of marking the applications are not sort of influenced by undue bias. So, for example, knowing that it's, you know, a London-based medical student or a Northern medical school based medical student. So yeah, no, that's fine. I don't think that's something to worry about. It's fine to put the title of the publication in. You know, I mean, obviously, I would like to think that I wouldn't have to go and research the publication to make sure it's definitely genuine, but no, that's okay.
Thank you, Declan. Another question for Manu about the elective. Given you spent your Psych Star money on your flights, did you have to have that planned before your application, or could you just say you plan to go to one of a number of places and that flights would inevitably cost a significant amount of money?
Yeah, great question. So at the time of applying to the Psych Star, I didn't know that I would end up in Tokyo. As I said, I applied all over the world for so many different things and just wanted to see what would stick. By the way, one tip from me on that is just start early and, as Ratnu said, have a really clear idea. But I did mention in my application that I wanted to do an elective abroad because I wanted to broaden my horizons beyond the traditional healthcare within the UK. In fact, broaden it beyond healthcare institutions, actually get some experience in a startup that is trying to address healthcare needs through commercial business rather than one-to-one care. So you can talk about the general gist of what you're looking for. You can be specific without saying the exact name of the company that you have in mind or the country that you want to go to. You can describe what you want to get from the experience, that kind of thing. So you can be specific in the kind of the principles and the meaning behind it without having to give specific names. And I believe there was one other aspect of the question. Sorry, I can't remember.
No, that's fine. Just bear with me. Yeah, so did you have it planned before your application? No, you've answered that. No, I think you've covered that.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, and as I said, Ratnu and Becca have put their emails in the chat. I'll put mine in there now. If you have any further questions, I'm happy to be contacted there.
Thank you so much, Manu. A couple more questions have come up about the anonymizing CVs. I think I can answer those. So one was, as a grad entry medic, should we also anonymize institutions we completed previous degrees at, or just our current medical school? I believe that you would need to anonymize and remove the names of all prior institutions. Declan, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, that's correct, Hayley. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. We had one person say, if I have already applied, could I email about feedback on my previous application? I haven't received any applications for this cohort yet. So you may be talking about an application from last year. So it may well be too late to receive that.
Yeah, I think it would be. I think the only person that might be able to answer that is Claire Wynne McKenzie at the college. You know, certainly if Claire can locate your application, you know, happy to try and provide some feedback.
Thank you. Yes, so for that person, if you email careers@rcpsych.ac.uk, we will look into that for you, but it may not be possible at this stage. For the £500 funding, isn't there expiry date for when we have to use it by? I can answer this one. Yes, so it will be by the end of the scheme. So the scheme starts 1st of September 2022. So you'll need to have used all that £500 that you wish to use by the 1st of September 2023. Thank you for that. We've had a question about what are the benefits from writing for Future Psych. It was something we put in the chat that we are currently calling for submissions for the summer edition of the Future Psych magazine. Have any of the Psych Stars here written for Future Psych before? I think maybe one of you have.
Yes, I have. Sorry about my video. I was using my phone as a webcam as I'm abroad and it's overheated, but you just have a picture of me there. I'll just answer that about the Future Psych. I really felt grateful for the opportunity to try and write something for Future Psych. There's an edition every so often, I think either once or twice or a few times a year. And it really doesn't have to be anything too like scientific in terms of, doesn't have to have a real like study that you've conducted or something like that. It can just be a real interesting thought piece, or really a reflection on any experience, anything that you like. What I would suggest is just read through all of the other Future Psych editions, see what kind of articles people have written. And if you feel interested in pursuing a particular area, this could be a great way for you to pursue that interest as well as get something published in the magazine.
Thank you for that, Manu. That's really helpful. And for any other questions about submitting to Future Psych, you can email the careers email. Another question about CVs. I think I know the answer to this. Does one page mean that it can be two sides or only one side? I believe one side of A4, one single side.
Yeah, one side of A4. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, another question about benefits such as the BJ Psych and the bursary. Do they only last for 1 year, or can they be accessed during any year of medical school? I would say that the benefits of the scheme are available to you for the duration of the scheme. So from the 1st of September to the 1st of September.
Absolutely.
We have some more questions. A question about interviews. We're not going to have the answer to this yet, but what dates are applicants invited to interviews? We are in the process. Declan, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, sometime in July. We haven't got a date yet, but it'll be after the deadline of the 4th of July, Hayley, wasn't it? Was the deadline for applications to be submitted. So it'll be sometime between the 4th of July and the end of July will be the interviews, but you will certainly be given sufficient notice.
Thank you, Declan. A question about today's presentations. Will they be sent out? Provided everyone who has presented today is happy for us to share their slides, then we can certainly share those out to you. Can you apply for multiple faculties or just one? You can apply for as many of the faculty Psych Star positions as you would like, as well as the general Psych Star scheme. And a question in relation to that, which Declan, I think will be one for you. How does the faculty specific Psych Star application work if applying to multiple faculties? Will the commitment to each faculty be assessed independently of how you have chosen to apply, or will applicants potentially be disadvantaged by applying to multiple Psych Star posts?
I suppose what I'd say in response to that is maybe think carefully about whether there's a specific subspecialty within psychiatry that you're particularly interested in. I guess, you know, ultimately, if you're going to submit separate applications for the different faculty awards, then you need to be able to demonstrate, you know, how you've achieved a level of commitment and shown a level of interest in specific specialties. So I would question whether you can do that in more than one or two faculties, to be honest. So think carefully about which subspecialty you're particularly interested in, is what I'd say.
Thank you, Declan. I think we have answered all of the questions. Let me just double check. We have another 10 minutes for questions. So if you still have any questions for myself and the remaining Psych Stars, Declan, I know you are leaving us shortly. We are here for another 10 minutes. If you want to put a new question in the Q&A. We have a new question here. Will you be automatically considered for the general award if not successful with the faculty specific one? I believe that you need to specifically state in your application whether you're applying for the general Psych Star award only, or whether you're applying for the general Psych Star award and a faculty specific one. Thank you for that one. We are putting some things in the chat now, for example, the Psych Star website, Psych Star scheme website, and we put the careers email address in there. Another question has come in. If you used your time in Psych Star to plan an elective, but the elective was the next year, 2023, 2024, would you be able to use the funding in advance for flights? My understanding for that is that the £500 fund that you have would need to be spent and used for an activity that you were doing during that year, from the 1st of September 2022 to the 1st of September 2023. I believe that that would be the case. Okay. Another question has come through. If we apply for general and one subspeciality Psych Star, does it disadvantage yourself with regards to the general post if your proven commitment is very specific to the subspeciality? I would say that Declan has already explained this in his answer to the previous question about applying for multiple faculties. Ultimately, you have the opportunity to apply for the general Psych Star and for one or more subspecialities. I think that you wouldn't be an advantage for your general post because you would be writing about your general interest in psychiatry in one of the 4 requirements for the application. So I wouldn't say that that would disadvantage you. It's just we're giving you the opportunity to apply for both the general and both the subspeciality. It may be that there's lots of competition for a particular speciality and that you don't get your speciality choice, in which case you would still be just as eligible for the general post. Another question: to confirm, you would be submitting separate applications, one for general, one for each of the faculty ones you want to contest for if appropriate. So if you are submitting for both the general Psych Star and a faculty specific Psych Star, you would need to submit one document for everything relating to your general Psych Star post, and you would need to submit a separate document with everything required, so points 1 to 4 plus your faculty specific question in a separate document. So essentially it is 2 separate applications. Okay, somebody has said that they are quite confused by the requirements for anonymization of the application form. Please, could you summarize again what things need to be anonymous on the application form? So ultimately, when you're anonymizing your CV and all of your documents that you're going to put into the PDF, if you think in terms of if you were a judge, if you were on the judging panel and you were trying to remove as much as possible any opportunities for unconscious bias, favoritism, then you need to do your utmost to remove anything that could potentially identify you. As Declan mentioned, in terms of publications, he said that you can include the title of publications, but name, address, institutions that you've studied at, organizations that you've worked for, anything like that needs to be anonymized. I don't know if any of the Psych Stars have anything to add on that.
Yeah, so I just went full anonymized, so I didn't even say out the name of the society I was involved in, because it could have been easily traced to myself. I didn't say like the university that I was involved in or the name of any charity. So when I said I'd worked with a domestic abuse charity, I didn't say the name, so leeway, I said domestic abuse charity. So anything that you can anonymize, do. I don't think it takes away from the narrative, just get across the sort of thing. So yeah, any societies, I would just say society. I wouldn't say like the actual names of them, if that makes sense.
That's really helpful. But again, if you're still unsure or not confident about that anonymizing process after today, when you come to apply, then you're welcome to email the careers email for further advice on that. Okay, a question. So we're in the second to last year of medical school, i.e. F1, starting in 2023, are you eligible for the award? So if you are going to apply for the award, you need to be a medical student enrolled on a medical course from the 1st of September, or covering the period from the 1st of September 2022 all the way through to the 1st of September 2023. So ultimately, if you finished your medical school degree prior to the 1st of September 2023, so say if you finished that in August or July 2023, you wouldn't be eligible to apply, because you wouldn't be available to be on the scheme for the whole duration of the scheme. Okay, another question after the interview stage. So we've just had a comment and the audio has gone strange. I don't know if this is just for me. Is this for others too? What is happening with the audio?
It's gone quite robotic-y and static.
Okay, sound has feedback. Has that been throughout you speaking or just recently?
Just now.
Just now. Okay. Patricia, are you there? Sound?
I am here. I think that might be something to do with either your network where you are being poor, but I will have a look.
Can everyone hear Becca? Can you hear Patricia okay?
Were you able to hear me, guys? Yeah, I think it might be an issue to do with your network. So
There are 2 open questions in the Q&A. You happy to read those out?
So someone's asked, just to confirm, are applicants allowed who are in second to last year of medical school, i.e. F1 starting in 2023, are they eligible for the Psych Star scheme?
Yes. And that was the case with myself. That was going into my final year. So yeah, you're eligible.
Great. So the second question is, after the interview stage, does the college look to give awards spread evenly across medical schools? For example, are you sort of competing against people from other medical schools, or is it still unknown to the unis?
I don't think you, I'm not from the Royal College, but I know myself and Juliet are both from East Anglia, so I don't think it has anything to do with which medical school you're at. I think because it's anonymized, no one knows which one you're at, so I don't think it's spread out like that, but correct me if I'm wrong.
I think that's right. Your medical school doesn't influence your application and where you get,
Just going to see if my sound just fixed itself by any chance. No. Okay.
I think that's all the questions we have. No.
Okay, I would like to thank everyone for attending, but as you can't hear me, Tricia, would you like to do that?
What was that, sorry? Great. It's really sad that we can't hear Hayley, but thank you so much for everyone for attending the webinar, and it's been great to hear all your questions. We hope that you've had all your questions answered. Thank you to our speakers for taking your time to share all your knowledge with all of us. It's been very kind of you, and we wish you all the best with all your endeavors. I'm going to drop something in the chat, so if you wish to share any feedback or something you'd like to hear next time, please fill that out for us. We're always looking to improve our webinars. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Best of luck. Bye-bye.